at the end of the day. But I think this is where it becomes even more important for anyone doing these kind of business models to have a software setup that follows their inventory quite closely. So you need to know each one of your items individually. I don't think it's even enough to have, let's say, 4 SKUs for grade A, grade B, grade C, grade E. You need to know each one of those items. You need to, once you've done the heavy lifting of checking the declaration, inspecting it, doing the grading and conditioning, pricing the value of that, you need to kind of follow your inventory on a single article level, have some assumption on the shelf value in order to know like what kind of campaigns to push to the market. Because the granularity and individuality of your inventory and becomes complex, but not impossible. Like for modern software, it should be quite easy job to help you out there, but you need to do it anyhow. It's kind of following everything individually, their value and condition. And then if you take it to extreme, you can even figure out like, okay, what's the value of the spare parts that I could get out of this? So I think there's in YouTube, publicly available, this the channel Smarter Every Day did an episode of a Finnish company called Kamerastore. And they buy analog cameras and then they kind of refurbish them. And in that video you can see their warehouse, and they have hundreds of thousands of small spare parts because they know that the value of those spare parts is also quite high because you know, the companies don't anymore even manufacture these models. So it's this kind of thing that you have the foresight of going kind of deeper than the actual product, going to the spare part level and maybe valuing and following your inventory even on that level.
Well, that's interesting. Interesting topic. How the software layer helps there, and maybe quick word about also the inventory. You mentioned that it's not enough if you have like SKU per grade, but is there any time when you see that you have maybe identified like different categories that you have like the grading? So you might have like the performance, the battery life, and if there is any scratches on, if we're talking about iPhones, is it good idea to kind of combine those into SKUs, or what's the benefit if you actually have every single item as like individual? Is it that there is like basically there is no two similar used items? Or
well, yeah, I think and someone if there's someone listening from the retail like with a lot more experience than I do can correct me, but one of the things that I think that SKU helps and how it's used in many times is that I have a catalog as a merchant or a retailer, and then I say that for this item I need something from my inventory, and then I've mapped my inventory with SKUs, so stock keeping units, and then that works super well if all of my items are new and comparable to each other. So it's a nice way of connecting your inventory tracking. Now, in the examples where what we discussed, it might be that these 3 individual items that are all a bit different in condition or value can fulfill a similar promise. So I might still kind of do my catalog in terms of like, let's say that this is a grade A product, grade B product, grade C, grade D. But then in my inventory side of things, I can say that for grade A product, I need a product that is graded in between this thing, or whose value is between this thing. So the linkage between the catalog and inventory can become a bit more complex. But then that frees you from the kind of trouble of having to somehow forcefully say that your inventory follows some kind of a SKU structure. All of a sudden you can kind of have a extremely flexible relationship between these two things. So your inventory tracking, you can do granularly, understand the value of everything. You could still attach SKU codes to each one of those articles as a way of referencing. So that's kind of, I think, the main difference is that you need individual tracking, but then you can have these codes or categorizations that you use relationally to other like product information systems or similar, that then kind of cascade to storefronts as a product page with some selection that makes sense for your customer type.
And I guess that also kind of brings in the flexibility, like if you are having the item and you kind of have to force it into these categories, like changing that, it actually you probably have to go through the whole inventory again. But if you have like the specifics there, then you can kind of change the logic and test different ones.
And it can even, I think it can, like the more flexible the relationship, you can even have a lot more fun in productization, because then you can kind of productize, like point to the same items from 5 different kind of ways, and somehow kind of eat the inventory from different value propositions. So I think that's the interesting part, that it frees it up a little bit, and you have this slight separation of concerns that, hey, this is how I try to commercialize, this is how I track my inventory and maximize the profits out of it. And then this relational logic here is often quite connected to my efficiency and all of that. And that's where the software companies like us should aim to help the merchants, that they can focus on just like keeping track of inventory, making sure that the value of that is increasing over time, and then the catalog flexibility, and then helping them automate and do the kind of linkage between these two.
And I assume there is also quite difference, like the purchase price might be actually also different than if there is some refurbishment done per item and able to kind of track that as well.
Yeah.
So it's on the other side of maybe on the inventory calculation, like how much this item that I'm selling might be same priced for the end consumer, but the actual history might be that I purchased different price. There might be some, I changed some part of it. Or
so it is really like getting into like, the more you start to scale your operation, the more important it becomes to have visibility or kind of a continuous audit record to the life cycle of that individual item. That how much did a person spend time inspecting it? How much did a person spend time refurbishing it? What spare parts they put in? Like getting that trail, because it's rarely like you can try to standardize as much as you can, but the source of improving your standardization of the process depends on getting that feedback. That how is it going right now? So having that. Having either a software or having a way of storing that into the inventory information, assumption of the efficiency there, is a way for you to kind of continuously develop your operation, because that's kind of, I believe, a big part of businesses is trying to figure out how to be more efficient, lean, and
absolutely.
and mean.
And I guess there is also maybe some valuable insights there that are not available if you don't actually track it. So there might be that these parts that are maybe broken more often than that, but you might actually have like a really cheap way to solve that, and then you might actually like specialize in purchasing items that are actually in like bad condition. Like I think once again, just thinking about iPhones as an example. So if you have like a broken screen, it's a huge deal for the user. But if you have like an operation that is actually very cheap and efficient to replace it, that might be that, hey, I'm actually just trying to find all the phones that have broken screens in the whole world.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a lot of insights that you can get there. Also, for if we just look into, for example, product returns, and all of these examples apply, I think, even more if you are a brand or retailer who manufactures their goods themselves or kind of are in close loop of that. So let's say that you get product returns, and then you do this kind of recording of what was the condition and where was the damage and whatnot. All of that data can then be used in your product manufacturing and product design to figure out how do we improve our product, because that should be kind of the source of revenue in the first place, that you have a well-performing product against the standards that you consider to be well-performing. Now, that one is super important, and then like the other aspects that you mentioned, that like once you get the information on like how is it broken, you can optimize other parts. And then it might be, even if let's say you're just a general retailer that you buy all of your stuff, if you've made the job of tracking every item and making sure that you also track not what brand this was, but from who did I buy it, or if you, in best case, you can even the traceability can go to the place that which manufacturing plant actually has manufactured this good. So there might be a plant in country A, country B, country C, all manufacturing against the same spec. So they should be comparable, but they probably aren't. So then if you start to get product returns and you can kind of start tracking that all of the plant C, manufacturing C products have a fault here, it might be the source of kind of improving that operation. Of course, that is assuming that you are kind of quite vertically integrated to have the power to do that. Maybe we can direct it via purchasing, all of that. But just as an example, like if you zoom out even more and look into the total supply chain, the more trackability you have on an individual level rather than an aggregated SKU, the more you have, again, ways of optimizing for end user quality.
And that kind of sounds like data that usually companies don't actually have. Like once they sell it and it leaves their store, they probably don't actually have any data on that afterwards. So I think buyback programs, trading programs are actually opening this type of new data.
Definitely, I think, yeah, or if they've had the data, I think in many cases they have secondary information. They have product ratings. So then from there they might get a signal that, hey, the customers aren't really happy with the product, so it's breaking down or whatever. Or then if they have some data, they've aggregated it to too big of a chunk. So instead of following things on an individual level, they have a quite big blob of something's wrong here, but the actionability can stay quite low.
That's very interesting, and probably something that a lot of retailers or manufacturers actually would appreciate quite a lot to get that data in.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.